football fans in here? Good, good. I am not. No, I'm not. But when I was growing up, my brother went to University of Alabama. My parents are huge Bears fans. And growing up, my mother always told me, Courtney, if you ever want to get a husband, you need to learn about football. Anybody here agree with that? A couple of sad chuckles in the back. No, she said, Courtney, you need to learn about football if you ever want to get a husband. And so I took it upon myself to watch every single episode of Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders making the team on country music television. And I'll tell you something, this was before DVR, and so I learned a lot in those football-related parts that I wasn't able to skip. But what that taught me is that I may be more into the cheerleaders than the football players. It is going to help me, though, like later this week, because I have a date with a retired pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. And before you come up to me after this and say, Courtney, sweetheart, that's a baseball team. I know it's a baseball team, but they're just both ball sports that are incredibly long. At least during one of them, you get a little song and dance break. I told that joke to a friend of mine recently, and she said, Courtney, you're such a cleat chaser. And I was really offended once I figured out what that meant. Because if anything, I'm not a cleat chaser, okay? Listen up, I am a hedge fund honey. All right, I am a tech trollop. But it did get me wondering, are there are obviously like terms for girls who only date guys who are in specific demographics, right? Like, we have actually a retired NHL goalie in the back here, and there is a term for girls who exclusively date guys who play hockey. They're like puck sluts. And it got me wondering, is there a term for girls who exclusively date comedians? And I was thinking about this, and I heard someone say, I think they're called chuckle fuckers. But I would like to correct that. I think that's a misnomer. I think the real term for girls who date comedians is the class of 2022. Yeah, Charlie, when you turn 25, you are going to fully form your brain and then not be able to date Leonardo DiCaprio or Dane Cook, and it'll be fine. I was talking to someone about football recently, and they were telling me about how they were like scouting their draft for the lineup, and I was really confused because I thought that we had already all picked who we were gonna be doing cuffing season with already. Apparently, we was talking about fantasy football. No, I am single. So you two met on Twitter. You two met on Twitter. Okay, cool. It's great to know the dating apps do work for some people. I was talking to one of my guy friends about whether or not it's more difficult to like find someone to date as a man or as a woman. Clap if you think it's easier to find dates as a man. Just one dude. The dude who met his girlfriend on Twitter thinks it's easier. Of course you think it's easier. It worked out. No, obviously it's easier to find dates when you are a girl, but it was part of a larger discussion about what kind of standards are people setting these days for who they're willing to date, and it was all around this concept of dating tall versus short guys and guys adding height onto their dating profiles. Like, it's okay, we all know that you do it, it's fine. The guy in question had his dating profile height set to 5'5". And our friend group was like, why would he lie about that? Why would he make a joke about being 5'5"? And I was like, no, you don't understand. He is 5'5". I went on a date recently, and this will tell you that it's pretty equally easy to be misled as a woman or as a man dating in these days and age. I was on a date a few months ago. This was back when we were still all wearing masks in order to go into places and then immediately took them off. I was running late for a date, as I'm apt to do, and I get out of my Uber in front, what I think is in front of this bar, and then I realize, oh no, I'm supposed to be across the street. And so I go across the street, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm supposed to be down the street. And so then I go down the street, and then I go, oh no, I'm supposed to be back where I was dropped off in my Uber driver was correct. And so then I go all the way back to the bar that I was standing in front of, and there's this man standing there, and I said, hi, did you watch me get out of my car and then go across the street and then go down the street and then come all the way back over here? And he said, yes. And he said, also, it's a 25-minute wait to get a table in this bar. Do you want to go somewhere else? And I said, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. Like, not being even a little bit upset that he had told me that he made a reservation. It turns out that he didn't. And as I say yes, he looks over my shoulder and he sees his date. Because it turns out that I need glasses. So women may trick you by wearing makeup, but you trick us by being blurry. And that's fine. No, I've decided to get back on the dating apps recently. I kind of gave it up for the end of the summer, which was the longest I'd given it up after Lent. I gave up dating guys getting their MBAs for Lent, which tells you how big of a problem it was for me. I decided to get back on the dating apps, but I'd given them up after the summer. So most of y'all are Chicago locals, right? And most of you are white women who live in Chicago. I have to apologize in advance. I have disappointed our community in that this summer it was my full intention to party on a boat. And I tried my best all summer to party on a boat, but I was not successful. I went on dating apps with this sole purpose in mind. I was very direct about it. Okay, so you know how like you go on different dating apps and you pitch yourself a little bit differently because it's got different demographics, right? Like Tinder, you're really direct because it's just for hookups. And Bumble, you're really like flattering and complimentary and conversational because it's for simps. And so I went on Hinge and I wrote, looking for an FWB for 4th of July weekend. And I got some replies, but it turns out that not everyone knows that FWB now stands for friend with boat. I understand the confusion, it's fine, it's fine. And so I went on a different dating site and I decided, okay, you know what, that didn't work, so I'm gonna pitch myself a little bit differently. I'm gonna be more specific. And so I wrote, woman seeking man with access to aquatic vehicle, available wee hours of the night, 4th of July weekend. Triflers need not apply. It turns out, funny enough, that this was a bit more date line than pickup line. One of us came back alive. All right, my name's Courtney Zelazny. Thank you so much.